Welcome to our deep dive. We're going to be looking at Money Mindset by Jacob Gold and this really interesting article on U.S. energy trends. It's going to be pretty fascinating, I think, as we unpack how all of this stuff relates to you and your financial journey, especially in today's world. Pretty crazy world out there, right?
It is, and it really is about equipping you with the tools and knowledge to navigate what a lot of people find a very complex financial landscape.
For sure. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Gold kicks off with a really powerful concept. Money is energy.
Okay.
He compares it to fuel for your life. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great analogy. I mean, just like your car needs gas to run, right? You need money to achieve your goals, right?
Yeah.
And live the life that you want. But, here's the concerning part. There was a study done by Vorldrevolution Financial, and they found that only 17% of Americans actually have a formal financial plan.
Oh, wow.
So it's like setting off on a cross-country road trip with no map and just hoping for the best.
Yikes. And that journey is even more challenging these days because that old reliable roadmap, the one that's like work till 65, then retire, it seems like that's fading away. Both Gold and this article talk about that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Pensions are becoming a lot less common, right? And the future of Social Security, it's kind of uncertain. It's a wake-up call for all of us. We can't rely on these old systems anymore.
Yeah, that really hits home. You can't just assume things will work out the same way they did for our parents or grandparents. How should people approach their finances? Given all this, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, well, it requires a mindset shift. The Nobel laureate Robert Merton put it brilliantly. He said, and I quote, "Our approach to saving is all wrong. We need to think about monthly income, not net worth." And that's it. That really reframes the whole retirement conversation because it's not about accumulating this huge nest egg, but creating a steady income stream that will last you throughout your retirement years.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. It's less about reaching a specific number and more about building a system to generate income consistently.
Exactly. It's about building a financial engine that can support you even when you're not working. Actively working.
That's awesome. I like that. Gold also digs into the psychology of money, which I thought was really interesting. He argues that it's not just about the numbers, but our childhood experiences can shape how we behave with money as adults, and it happens subconsciously. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, think about this. Have you ever noticed yourself making financial decisions that just don't seem rational? Or they're driven by emotions, maybe? Maybe you're overly cautious with investments. Or maybe you tend to overspend when you get a bonus.
Oh, yeah?
Right? Those behaviors might be rooted in your early experiences with money.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's like we might be carrying baggage from our childhoods without even realizing it. Can you give us an example of how this might play out, in real life?
Yeah, sure. Let's say, for example, you grew up in a household where money was always tight.
Okay.
So as an adult, you might develop what we call a scarcity mindset, where you're constantly hoarding money, you're afraid to invest, even when it makes sense, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or conversely, you might have witnessed your parents, making really impulsive financial decisions. And so you might subconsciously repeat those patterns, even if you know it's risky,
That makes a lot of sense. And Gold calls these out. He's like, these subconscious biases can really trip us up. He specifically talks about the house money effect. Do you know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain that for everyone?
It's really fascinating. It's like a psychological thing. Imagine you win $100 at a casino.
Okay.
Are you more likely to just gamble it away than you would with $100 you earned at your job? A lot of people would say yes. And that's what we call the house money effect. We're less careful with money that we think of as a windfall. Even though really money is money, right? It's the same.
That's a great example. So how can we become more aware of these biases and stop them from, messing up our financial goals?
Well, self-awareness is key, right? Take some time to reflect. Think about your own attitudes about money, your behaviors with money. Where do they come from? Are there any patterns or beliefs that might be holding you back? Once you identify those blind spots, then you can start to challenge them and make more conscious, intentional choices with your money.
I love that. It's like shining a light on those hidden corners of our minds
that
are influencing our behavior, That's really powerful. I think that's a big takeaway for anyone who's listening.
It is.
So now let's talk about one of the most powerful tools for building wealth.
Okay.
Compound interest.
Yes.
Gold tells this funny story about a 6th grade math class, Dr. Foley's class, and this penny.
Oh, yeah.
That doubled every day for 30 days.
Classic.
Do you remember this story?
It's a classic illustration of the magic of compounding, right? So Dr. Foley, he offered his students a choice. He said, okay, you can have $30,000 cash.
Wow.
Right now. Or I'll give you a penny that doubles in value every day for 30 days. Most of the kids, they want that instant gratification, right? So they chose the $30,000.
Yeah, $30,000. I mean, to a 6th grader, that's a lot of money.
It's a fortune, but they totally missed out on this incredible power of what we call exponential growth. Because by the end of the month, that penny would have been worth over $5 million.
Wow.
The lesson there is even small amounts consistently invested over time can yield extraordinary results because of compounding.
That's so important for our younger listeners to know, right? Time is on your side.
It is.
The sooner you start, even if it's a small amount, the more time it has to grow exponentially.
And to illustrate that point even further, Gold tells the story of Larry and Earl. They're these two college buddies who made this pact to start saving. So Earl, he started putting away $4,000 a year when he was 25. But Larry got sidetracked, life got in the way. So he didn't start saving till he was 35.
Okay, so he started 10 years later. But he was probably making more money by then, right?
You would think so, but here's the thing. By the time they both reached 65, Earl's nest egg was more than double Larry's, even though he only invested $40,000 more over his lifetime.
Wow.
It just goes to show you, procrastination, it costs you big time. Starting early is so powerful.
That's a powerful lesson for all of us, no matter what age we are. So speaking of building wealth, Gold's a big advocate for diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Right, absolutely.
He compares it to like a basketball team. You want different players with different skills to win.
Exactly. He believes in asset allocation, spreading your investments across different asset classes, like stocks, bonds, and cash to really manage risk effectively.
He even cited a Vanguard study. I thought this was interesting. Portfolios with a 50-50 mix of stocks and bonds averaged around 5% return per year, even during recessions.
Right. And while past performance doesn't guarantee future results, it really illustrates the power of balance, right? And diversification to mitigate your risk.
It's reassuring, isn't it? It's not just about chasing those high returns, but also protecting yourself from those major downturns. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And this ties into another crucial concept, risk tolerance. How much fluctuation can you handle without freaking out, panicking and making a bad decision,
It's really about knowing yourself, isn't it? Understanding your risk tolerance is key to creating a portfolio that you can actually stick with through all the ups and downs.
Absolutely. He suggests, taking a risk tolerance questionnaire, which you can find online. This will give you data to base your investment decisions on, not just your gut feeling.
That sounds like a good place to start. It's about knowing yourself and building a portfolio that reflects your specific circumstances, your risk appetite. And speaking of protecting ourselves, Gold, he also talks about some less exciting but equally important aspects of financial well-being, taxes and insurance.
Right.
Welcome back. So I'm really looking forward to kind of digging deeper into this whole taxes and insurance thing. Not the most glamorous, but pretty essential when it comes to achieving true financial well-being, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. It's like building a house. You got to have a solid foundation to support everything else.
I love that. Okay, so where do we even begin with taxes?
Right.
The tax code, oh my gosh, it can feel so overwhelming.
Yeah, it can be.
Especially with all the changes and updates, and I don't even know where to start.
Well, Gold does a good job breaking it down in a way that I think is really helpful, and he actually takes us all the way back to ancient Mesopotamia, where people paid taxes in, get this, livestock.
Livestock, really? Wow. I never thought about taxes in that context before.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Taxes have been around forever in various forms throughout history. And in the U.S., our tax system has gone through some major transformations, especially during times of war or economic upheaval,
Right, like when they introduced income tax withholding during World War II. Exactly.
Before that, most people paid their entire tax bill in one lump sum.
Wow.
Can you imagine trying to come up with that much cash every year?
That would be stressful. It's amazing how much it's changed over time.
It is. And while no one enjoys paying taxes, gold makes a good point. They're a necessary part of a functioning society, right? They fund essential services like education, infrastructure, national defense, all that good stuff.
It's a good reminder, yeah. Because it's easy to get caught up in the frustration of paying taxes without thinking about the benefits, right? I mean...
Yeah, for sure. And instead of trying to game the system or find loopholes, he suggests focusing on understanding the tax code. Pay your fair share.
Yep.
Work with a good CPA, who can help you legally maximize your deductions and credits,
So it's more about working within the system strategically?
Exactly.
Not just trying to avoid it.
Exactly. And one of the key strategies he highlights is calculating your effective tax rate.
I've heard that term before, effective tax rate, but what does it actually mean?
Well, it's the percentage of your plainy income that you're actually paying, after all the deductions and credits.
Okay.
And it's a much more accurate way to kind of look at your tax burden than just looking at your marginal tax rate, which is only the highest portion of your income.
So it's more about looking at the big picture,
right?
Not just one little piece of it.
Exactly. It gives you a much clearer understanding of your overall tax liability.
Okay, that makes sense. So now let's move on to insurance. Gold talks about insurance as a way to transfer risk, right? Like you're paying a small amount to avoid a potentially big, catastrophic loss.
Exactly.
And he uses this great analogy about insurance policies being like the side rails on a bridge.
It's perfect, isn't it? Those side rails, they give you that sense of security when you're driving across the bridge. You know that you're not going to go over the end.
It's that safety net, that gives you peace of mind.
Yeah.
And Gold kind of goes through all these different types of insurance, starting with health insurance, of course.
Of course.
He's like, even with employer-sponsored plans, healthcare costs are rising.
Mm-hmm.
And we have these high-deductible plans now. So we need to be setting aside savings for medical expenses.
Yeah, because healthcare costs, they can be so unpredictable, right? And they often come at the worst possible time. So having that financial cushion can really prevent those unexpected expenses from, totally derailing your financial plan.
Yeah. For sure. He also talks about long-term care insurance, which I'll be honest, I don't know much about.
Yeah, so it's a type of insurance that helps cover the costs of things like assisted living or in-home care, as we age.
Okay.
Gold actually breaks retirement down into 3 stages. He calls them the go-go years, the slow-go years, and then the no-go years.
I love that. It's such a realistic way to think about the different phases of retirement and how our needs might change over time.
And long-term care insurance becomes really important, during those no-go years when you might need help with daily activities.
Right.
It can be a financial lifesaver and an emotional one, for both the individual and their family.
Yeah, that's a really important consideration, especially as people are living longer. They need care for longer periods of time. Now, Gold also stresses the importance of life insurance.
Right.
Especially for people with young kids or, people who depend on their income.
Yeah, because life insurance provides that financial safety net for your loved ones. If, God forbid something were to happen to you, it helps them maintain their lifestyle. It can cover expenses like education or mortgage payments. They can grieve without the added burden of financial stress.
That's peace of mind, right?
Yeah, knowing that, your family will be taken care of even if you're not there.
Yeah, that's huge. And there are 2 main types of life insurance, right? Term and whole life.
Right. Term life provides coverage for a specific period of time, cash value life. It combines coverage with a savings component.
Okay.
So it's important to kind of, think about what's best for your situation.
Right. Choose the one that aligns with your needs. Okay. And then there's disability insurance. I feel like that often gets overlooked.
It does. And a lot of people assume they'll never need it. But honestly, you're more likely to become disabled than to die prematurely.
Really? Wow. That's a little scary. But it really makes you think, you got to protect your income, especially if you're, the primary earner for your family.
Exactly. So disability insurance can replace a portion of your income if you're unable to work, because of an illness or injury.
And Gold tells this story about a client, a doctor, who purchased a disability policy, specifically to protect his business and income if he became disabled. It made me realize that disability insurance isn't just for blue-collar jobs or something like that. It's for anyone who relies on their income.
Absolutely. You got to protect your most valuable asset,
Yeah.
your ability to earn a living.
Exactly. Gold also touches on auto insurance, making a point that we need to have more than just the minimum coverage required by law. We should think about getting comprehensive coverage to protect us from underinsured or uninsured drivers.
Right. It's about having that extra layer of protection in case of an accident, right?
Yeah. And shop around for the best rates, best coverage.
Right.
Look at deductibles and your payment history, customer reviews.
All that good stuff. Take the time, compare the options, and find the policy that meets your needs and budget.
Okay, good tips. And finally, there's homeowners insurance and umbrella policies. Those provide liability coverage in case of accidents or lawsuits.
Right.
And in today's world, people sue for anything. So Gold says having adequate insurance is just essential for protecting yourself, protecting your asset.
It's like having a shield, to protect you from those potential financial blows. It's not about just hoping for the best. It's about actively, taking steps to mitigate your risk.
So it's all about having that peace of mind, knowing that you're covered.
Exactly.
If something happens, right?
It's about taking control
Yeah.
and making informed choices that align with your goals, your values.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about managing risk and protecting ourselves.
Yeah.
But Gold also gives some really great insights on actually building wealth through investing.
Right. So now that we've laid the groundwork, with taxes and insurance, it's time to explore how to make your money work for you.
In part 3, we'll dive into Gold strategies for investing wisely. Building a portfolio that can help you achieve your financial dreams. I'm excited about this. All right, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive, the psychology of money, taxes, insurance, all that good stuff. But now it's time to talk about actually building wealth through investing. This is where it gets fun, right?
Right, it is, yeah. We've talked about protecting what you have, and now it's about, making that money work for you.
Exactly. And Gold, he really jumps into the world of stocks and bonds and the whole investment landscape.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from it.
No, he doesn't. But he starts by acknowledging, it can feel overwhelming, especially for beginners.
Oh, yeah.
It's so much jargon, you know what I mean?
A lot of it.
And so many options, and you're just like, where do I even start?
Exactly.
He compares it to learning a new language. It takes time and effort, but it's a language worth learning if you want to achieve financial independence.
Yeah, it's a great analogy. Like learning any language, it's best to start with the basics.
Right.
And Gold does a great job of giving us a really clear and concise overview of how the stock market even works, the different types of investments, the key concepts, the things you need to understand.
I like that. I liked how he didn't just throw out a bunch of technical terms and not explain them. He really broke it down so anyone can understand.
Yeah, he assumes no prior knowledge. So I think it's great for anybody.
So let's talk stocks.
Okay.
Gold emphasizes that when you buy a stock, you're basically buying a piece of ownership in a company.
Mm-hmm.
And as the company grows and becomes more profitable, your stock should increase in value.
Right, like planting a seed, and watching it grow into a tree. You're not just buying a piece of paper. You're investing in the company's future.
I like that. And he also emphasizes that, investing in stocks should be a long-term game.
Yeah.
Right? You're not buying them to make a quick buck, but to kind of ride the growth of companies over time.
He actually quotes Warren Buffett, who said, "If you aren't willing to own a stock for 10 years, don't even think about owning it for 10 minutes.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that really hits home. That patience is key.
It is, yeah. It's about, writing out those short-term fluctuations, focusing on the long-term potential.
Yeah. So now bonds,
Okay.
those are a little different. They represent debt issued by, companies or governments.
Right.
And they typically offer lower returns, but they're considered less risky than stocks, right?
Less volatile.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like lending money to a company or a government.
Okay.
And receiving interest payments in return.
Okay, so when interest rates go down, bond values go up, and vice versa.
Right, exactly. He also talks about the concept of duration, which measures how sensitive a bond is to those changes in interest rates.
Okay, that's getting a little technical, but it sounds like something important to consider. When you're choosing bonds for your portfolio, right?
Yeah, it can be. And then, of course, there are cash equivalents. They're the safest asset class. But they also have the lowest potential return.
Yeah, like treasury bills, CDs, money market accounts, all that.
Yeah.
Good for like short-term savings or emergency funds. But you're not going to see huge growth over the long term.
Right, exactly. So Gold's point is the key to building wealth is figuring out the right mix of all these asset classes, based on your individual circumstances. He calls it asset allocation.
And he says it's one of the most important things, for determining your portfolio's overall return, even more so than like picking individual stocks or trying to time the market and all that.
Absolutely. It's about having that diversified portfolio that reflects your risk tolerance and your time horizon.
Okay, so like if you're younger, you have more time to recover from losses.
Right.
So you can take on more risk.
Exactly. So a younger investor with a long time horizon, they might put a bigger chunk of their portfolio in stocks for growth potential, whereas some older who's approaching retirement, they might want a more conservative allocation, more bonds and cash to preserve capital. You see what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like aligning your investment strategy with your stage of life, right?
Right, exactly. And risk tolerance, he reminds us, it's a very personal thing. It's about how much fluctuation can you handle without, making emotional decisions.
Yeah.
He recommends taking a risk tolerance questionnaire.
Oh yeah, I like those. Those questionnaires are so good for self-awareness.
Absolutely. And once you kind of understand that, your risk tolerance and your time horizon, you can start to build a portfolio that's really personalized, for your needs.
Okay, I like it. Now, Gold also gives some good insights on specific investment strategies. He talks about dollar cost averaging.
Right.
Which is a way to invest consistently over time, no matter what the market's doing.
You're not trying to time the market.
Exactly. It's like a disciplined approach. He also talks about systematic withdrawals, which is a strategy for taking money out in retirement.
Right, like creating a paycheck for yourself.
Yeah.
Instead of coming from your employer, it's coming from your investments.
I like that. Provides a sense of security, right?
It does, yeah.
So, one of the most important takeaways from Gold's book for me, and really from this whole deep dive, is that idea that financial well-being is really within everyone's reach.
I think so too. It's not just about being rich or, having a high income. It's about planning, making informed choices, taking control of your future.
Yeah, having the right mindset, believing that you can achieve your goals, and then taking action.
It's a journey, not a destination, and it requires, learning, adapting, and sometimes, getting help from a professional.
Gold's book provides a really great roadmap. I'd recommend it to anyone who wants to take control of their finances and build a brighter future.
Couldn't agree more. It's been great exploring all this with you.
Yeah, this was fun.
And I hope everyone listening, feels like they can take action and create the life they want.
That's what it's all about. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back soon with another episode exploring a whole new topic. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for that financial freedom.